Hello, class. Let me get back to the beginning of this thing. So excuse me, but we're getting ready to do Module 6, and don't get dizzy on the ride back. But we're going to do Module 6, and notice it's from Chapter 8 in your textbook. We start departing modules from chapters now. We're going to do the paired t-test and the Wilcoxon test. We're going to do 3 problems on that. We're going to do something in your course project. We're going to further define your study, and then we're going to do some standardizing of test scores into z-scores. Here's what the paired t-test and Wilcoxon test are for. They're to compare a pre-test and a post-test. Pre-test and post-test comparisons. That's pretty simple. Further defining your study, we're going to look at each one of these in a little more detail, and we're going to use a little more formality to write our statements. You're going to write these statements, and this will be for about a 3 to 5 page project when you get finished. We're also going to use Excel spreadsheet to standardize some raw scores into, they're just test scores, into z-scores, and you're going to watch a video, and we're going to do that. The paired t-test compares the mean from the pre-test to the mean of the post-test and detect if there's a statistically significant difference. You're familiar with that by now. Pre-test, some kind of treatment, and a post-test, probably teaching them something, but evidently not in this one. Look at this. It's significant, but look at the pre-test score, look at the post-test score. That's not a good thing. The information about it. Paired t-test, and here's one that was not significant. Okay, paired t-tests, just like everything else, have pre-test checklist. You go through size, the whole thing. Normality is the big one, and you're going to look at that. There's a paired t-test percent. Delta means the change in percent formula, and you may or may not use this. It's there, but you know how to calculate percentage. New minus old divided by the old times 100 gives you a percent. But if you use it, you may want to. It helps you explain something. We detected a 15.9% decrease in the crime rate in April after the lighting was installed. So you've got a pre-test crime rate. You've got installing lighting, the treatment, and then you've got a post-test, and there was a 15.9% increase. So they're a decreaser. Okay, what if it just ain't normal? What if it just ain't normal? You know that's going to happen there. We're going to use an alternative test, the Wilcoxon test, and you're somewhat familiar with that right now. So we'll use something called the Wilcoxon test. That's a non-parametric test. It means it's a test for not normalized data. And when you run it, you're going to go to the legacy part of this thing. You're going to go to non-parametric, analyze, non-parametric test, legacy dialogues, and then you're going to select 2 related samples. Now let's talk about defining our study, because this takes a little time. We're going to go through this. I want to give you some ideas of what each one of these mean formally, and let's look at it. Title and subtitle. Well, that's not going to be very difficult, but some dissertations have subtitles. I'm not fond of them and probably need to avoid it if you can, but you need something short and catchy, for your title. And I said, have I suggested to you that Google is your friend? Google's important. It's important to me when I do all this work. It'll be important to you too. Background information. Okay, that's going to be very important to the introduction in any chapter, basically. You're going to cite previous projects and studies that are similar to what you are proposing. What are the pressing problems that you want to address, and how do you know these are problems? Later we're going to do this problem statement, of course, but you can mention those here. You need to justify what you're doing. What are the other sources or programs similarly supporting these needs, major needs? Is there a special reason why you are uniquely suited to conduct the project? Is it geographic location that you know something about, or you're a language expert for some reason that's important? Do you have prior involvement? Now that's going to be most educators in this area. You have a close relationship to the project, the clientele, those sorts of things. Will it extend the work that has been previously done? And you can Google a lot of this stuff to help you formulate what you want to write about your project. The problem statement. Hey, this is a biggie. It's important. It is the thing you have to get right. It's the stepping stone to your research question. You can't have, I don't know if it says that here or not, but you can't have a solution and you can't have research questions and things without a problem statement. What are the pressing problems that you want to address? The problem statement is a stepping stone to your main research question. If you haven't identified a problem, you cannot formulate the question you will explore. The problem statement gives you focus and makes you hone in on something very particular. Here's some examples. The first one, I don't know about how that's worded. It may not be good. The teachers at Middletown School, you wouldn't want to be friends with them, do not have the skill to recognize or properly guide gifted children in the classroom. Looks like you're slamming the gifted program. There have been far too many studies directed to the correlation of chronic student absenteeism with certain aspects in the educational paradigm. I need a period there, and then we need to start that with a capital letter. However, very few studies have determined and forwarded specific recommendations for changes that can be implemented locally that really improve school attendance for those that are chronically absent. I'm doing this on absenteeism because I have one of the students in this class who has asked me about the topic, and I thought, well, let's make this work. I'll help you with yours too if you want me to. Purpose of the study. The purpose statement is made up of three major components: the motivation driving your dissertation, the significance of your research, and the research questions. So the purpose statement sort of comes from all that. Just like a great song that needs a great hook, the purpose statement needs to draw the reader in and keep their attention. Significance of the study. It is essential to include a well-documented statement of the need, the problem that is the basis of your project. It may come from a needs assessment. You may conduct surveys, interviews, focus, and your review of literature is always going to be helpful here. Will aid to avoid mistakes and errors that have been previously made. If you can point that out as a significant part of your study, that's a good thing. Could be unique and does not follow the same path as previously followed. Yes, that's important if you can point that out as well. For instance, the significance of this study is that school attendance is an overarching and not often prominent but significant factor determining the success or lack of success for students and often the programs we have developed for them, blah, 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 blah. So something like that. Overarching research question. The main research question is the question that is derived from the problem statement that you have formulated. The main questions are generally broken down into sub-questions and are hypotheses that enable you to tackle your research question in a more step-by-step manner. For instance, back to the attendance things. What are the quantifiable factors, since we're doing a quantifiable study, we're doing quantitative research, what are the quantifiable factors that influence chronic absenteeism in the schools, and what is their relative significance in either perpetuating or preventing chronic absenteeism? Now, I don't think I have a slide on overarching hypothesis, but you can sort of take whatever your overall research question is and just make a null hypothesis out of it. There will be no significant difference in blah, 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 blah. There is no significant difference. Standardizing scores, making z-scores out of these things. You're going to be giving old Jim's class of raw scores here, and you're going to convert them to standard scores, another name z-scores. For instance, this score is minus 1.2 standard deviations below the mean. Watch this video, follow these instructions. First thing you need to know before you can do the standard scores will be the mean, and down here you can't see it, is the standard deviation, but I want you to do all the descriptives. Take that table and just open up your spreadsheet and put it here where A1 is. And then it will look like this, and it'll still look like this. But what you're going to do is use this function f of x up here to put in the right formulas here to calculate these standard scores and these values you don't see down here. The mean is going to be an important one, so you'll have to use that as well. You're going to watch the video. It'll show you how to do it. You will be placing formulas like this into these places where you need answers from this set of scores. So that zero up there is not part of one of these. But anyway, then you'll put a formula in there and then you'll copy it all the way down. Now, the thing you've got to watch for is, see these dollar signs in here? This makes sure that those variables don't change, because once you select a variable down here for the mean, if you don't put the dollar sign thing in front of those, you can hit that and hit F4 and it'll take care of it. And then strike it down through there, because you want B3 to change. And I'm sorry, but if we had done this correctly, that would be C3 right there, because I'm in the C column. I don't know what happened there. But anyway, that will be a variable that will vary, and these will hold constant when you do this in Excel. You'll watch the video and it'll show you how to do that. Now, you're going to do the textbook exercises from the text, and you're going to put, when you get finished with those, you're going to paste them into a Word document. Everything here you're going to submit by Word. I don't want you submitting any files from Excel. Don't submit those to me. You're going to use the Shapiro-Wilk test to determine normality, and that's better than you eyeballing it and looking at it. The course project, you're going to use this template that I gave you, and you're going to just take it and write on it. And now this needs to be well done. It needs to be formalized, and I don't really care. You can use present tense or future tense with that, because we're not at the point where we're writing this thing up for past tense right now. But whatever tense you start with, stay with as you write this thing up. And also, I didn't talk about, there's one section on there I didn't talk about that, and that's your sample and population. You need to talk about who your sample and population, or what your sample and population is going to be. And remember that you're going to have a sample, and the sample is giving you an indication of what's going on in the population. Again, Google that, find out what you need to write there. And then you're going to do standardizing those raw scores. So good luck.